As it's Father's Day, let me talk about our church fathers, specifically John Knox. Knox was an influential figure in Presbyterian history. As Canadian Presbyterians, we see the name Knox on a lot of our churches. And I myself attended Knox College, but who was Knox? They didn't teach us that at Knox College. We rarely talked about Knox. Two reasons for that. One, in good Reformed tradition, we downplay our historical figures for fear of venerating them too much. And two, John Knox was a difficult man. Stubborn, hot-tempered, cantankerous, not someone I would lift up as a model Christian. Most of his time in Scotland, when he was at the height of his power, he was arguing with Mary, Queen of Scots. He opposed everything she did, stirring up anger, leading mobs, ransacking cathedrals and friaries. When he opposed Mary's upcoming marriage, she called to meet with him. She wanted to scold him, but instead she burst into tears and said, "What have ye to do with my marriage?" But her tears would do nothing to move Knox. He wrote an infamous pamphlet that denounced women rulers as evil. He wrote letters that got him accused of treason, preached sermons that sparked riots, and even called for Mary's death. No, not a pleasant man. But as he is our church father, let's look at him a little more charitably. Knox began as a Catholic priest in the 1540s. As a young man, he became close friends with the Protestant reformer George Wishart. Wishart would preach around Scotland, and Knox accompanied him as a bodyguard carrying a big two-handed sword. Under Mary of Guise, who was Mary, Queen of Scots' mother, Wishart was arrested, tried, and then burnt at the stake. Knox was there, and he was almost arrested and burnt himself if his friend hadn't told him to flee. There were skirmishes and rebellions, and at one point, Mary of Guise calls for the help of France to fight the Protestants. At age 33, Knox is captured by the French, and he is made a galley slave, chained to a bench and forced to row boats under horrendous conditions. As a galley slave, they were tortured for not showing Catholic devotion. And this lasts for 1 year and 6 months before Knox is released. He had almost died in it. This is trauma. And we need to view the rest of Knox's life through the lens of that trauma. It makes sense then that the first questions he asked the great reformer John Calvin was whether a woman could rule and whether people should obey idolatrous rulers. He is angry at Mary of Guise and then her daughter, Queen Mary of Scots, for the trauma that he experienced. He's a broken man holding himself together by sheer stubborn force of will. They didn't have therapists back then. They didn't process emotions. Life was just hard and you had to suffer through it. What did help was his faith and his conviction to do what was right no matter the consequences. He was not afraid to speak up for what he believed in, and he spoke up with a fiery passion for the ways that he understood God. They wrote on his tombstone, "Here lies one who never feared any flesh." It's a compliment, but a mixed one, and demonstrates what a difficult man John Knox was. We are part of his legacy, but we inherited more than just his stubbornness. He was key in establishing Protestant traits that we now take for granted. The rejection of purgatory, the fact that we don't kneel in church, the ways that Presbyterians will use a liturgy format for worship, but we're free to change it as much as we want. Our book of forms that guides church governance. Even the image of the burning bush and the motto, Nec tamen consumatur, however it was not consumed, carries the spirit of Knox's persistence and hope. Church fathers are just like any fathers, broken humans doing the best they can. I'd like to think it's possible, with a little graciousness, to acknowledge their flaws while also being grateful for the gifts that they left us. We are who we are because of them. Broken humans who are also doing the best that we can. Let's hope history will remember us with that same graciousness